If there's one truth that I've learned since becoming a space simulator, and space game enthusiast, it's that the collective dream of spaceflight is very much alive. But it's not just flight. It's exploration, combat, diplomacy, economy, world building, and lore crafting. It's life. In space, that's the dream. And one project seemed to promise it all: Star Citizen. In today's video, we'll take a fresh look at the game through one several-hour playthrough. We'll set aside assumptions and presumptions, compartmentalize preconceived notions, and put away carefully crafted cinematics and rampaging Reddit posts. Please join me in assessing the game through one lens alone, playing it as it currently exists now, late September 2021. Hello, my name is Jeff, and I've been a repeatedly hopeful, sometimes disillusioned, and occasionally downright angry Star Citizen backer for several years now. I have nearly $1,000 in ship assets collected over this time, and I, like many of you, have waited anxiously for the completion of the persistent universe. I could start down a long road telling you about my varying opinions or feelings that I've had when it comes to this project, but that's not what this video is about. While it will be necessary to edit and compile this pre-recorded footage down to a watchable video, my goal is to present the game as it's played through a fresh perspective and free of former judgment. My journey began as any spacefaring citizen's does, waking up in our habitation bed. I chose Orion as my starting location. It's the city floating amidst the upper atmosphere of the gas giant Crusader. This is the newest major location added to the game roughly 1 month ago. It's also the final one, according to CIG, having now completed the Stanton system. As I got my bearings in the game, I decided to check out the small waste closet bathroom and take care of my morning business. After playing with the retractable fixtures, I made my way over to the habitation door and stepped out onto the terrace. I was on the upper floors of the Green Circle building in Orion. I was immediately greeted by the sky view of Crusader, pink clouds and all. It truly is a remarkable location, and I was immediately immersed in the sights, sounds, and ambient music. I could tell the volumetric clouds were keeping my system busy, but performance was thus far playable. Before leaving the Green Circle apartments, I made sure to slip into something more suitable for tourism before heading to collect my ship. I chose my Anvil Aerospace t-shirt. As I walked out the front doors of the building, I passed another player who was reading an informative plaque. I stared out across the vista for a moment and attempted to adjust a quick setting in the game. When I turned back, the player was gone. As I walked the cherry blossom-strewn sidewalks, I took in the experience. It was no wonder to me that this location was one of the most heralded of all, and why they saved it for last. As I walked, NPC characters occasionally popped and teleported around their locations. I decided to cross the small footbridge and visit Stratus, Orion's retail location. I had some performance hitches, particularly when turning the camera. I saw another player duck into a small luxury clothing boutique, so I decided to follow. The fashion showcase there were truly unique, and very much evoked an off-planet, futuristic feel. One, though, I thought, seemed a little authoritarian. Stratus was a well-decorated, futuristically modern upscale retail setting, obviously catering towards those with money. Before I climbed up to the second level, I stopped at a midway landing to once again look out at the pink vista. Upstairs, I found a Whammer's Burger restaurant and decided to order a chicken wham, which I immediately decided to eat. I then purchased an energy drink and consumed it while looking out over the rest of the retail complex. In the center of the complex, I saw a very large aquarium elevator, accessible from the lower level. I decided to make my way to it and soon found that it brought you to the upper level lounge, which included a bar, dance floor, and an outdoor terrace, featuring a second bar, which had plenty of seating. I attempted to order a drink several times from the interior bar, however both bartenders ignored me or were otherwise intoxicated. I proceeded to the patio where I found a bartender who may or may not have had a tiny treadmill under his workspace. He was unresponsive. Finally, I visited the fourth bartender who, albeit a little slowly, made me a drink and delivered it. The only hard liquor available was a whiskey and coke, but since I actually happen to like those, I didn't mind. I sat for a few moments admiring the view and enjoying my cocktail. Then I decided it was time to head to the spaceport to pilot my spacecraft. As I exited Stratus, I noticed a hospital building off to my left. Medical gameplay is supposed to be a future mechanic, and I was curious what the hospital might look like, so I headed over. Along the way, I stopped to admire the falling cherry blossoms in the breeze. The hospital workers at the front desk paid me no mind. A large lobby corridor stood before me. It appeared that several departments existed within this hospital structure: the medical wards, an insurance office, and a pharmacy. I proceeded to the pharmacy to ask about getting whatever magnificent substance the bartenders were taking. The technician greeted me in a friendly manner, however I think she ignored my question. It must be a who-you-know kind of thing anyway. The wards towards the end of the hallway appeared to be closed off for future development, along with several of the kiosks. The push-pull mechanics show promise, though, and I took a few moments to test them with the hospital gurney someone haphazardly left in the walkway. It was about this time that I began to get annoyed at the constant comms chatter on my screen, and I attempted several times to remove it, all to no avail. Since I wasn't wearing my helmet, I didn't think that I should have anything on the screen. Eventually, though, I moved on and headed back across the footbridge to the shuttle station. It wasn't until later, unfortunately, that I realized that my gameplay audio was being picked up by one of my microphones and echoed back through my recordings.
Hi, thanks for coming in.
I found out later that this was a game setting, because none of my microphones were set to record audio. On Orion, the public transportation is handled by individual automated flying shuttles, as opposed to a tram system like on the terrestrial cities. I think this is a novel idea, and it really adds to the atmosphere. Once on board, however, I did notice just how much it felt on rails, and I hope that they'll be able to smooth out its flight path in the future. My intention was to head straight to the spaceport to collect my ship, but I disembarked early, perhaps in some small part due to the alcohol buzz I picked up back at Stratus. I had inadvertently gotten off at the Crusader Industries Shipyard stop, where ships are built. There's also a small exhibit showcasing their technology and products. I decided to step inside for a few minutes to have a look around. While I could have explored this location much more thoroughly, I was ready to depart for the spaceport, so I headed back towards the shuttle. The August Dunlop spaceport was a pleasant ride away, and I emerged on a sort of shuttle station or transit level. An elevator ride later, and I was back in familiar territory, as it was laid out very much like Star Citizen's other spaceports. I found myself passing through security scanners, visiting a small customs area, and eventually winding my way around to the concourse. Elegantly styled but simple in its design, it still managed to evoke the feeling of being in a much larger, airport-style space. In one direction, there were closed-off passenger gates reserved for future development, while the ASOP terminals were in an elevator lobby of their own. I requested my ship, and it was, after a few moments of waiting, delivered to Hangar 10. I chose my Origin 600i touring-style ship. I figured for such a luxurious location as Orion, I needed something more glitzy than the Carrack or the Constellation. When I arrived at the hangar, my ship was still in the process of spawning, and I got to see a little behind-the-scenes peek at the differing layers of it. Fortunately, it did spawn in its entirety, and promptly made my way to its elevator, which doubles as the airlock. I took a moment to stop at the lower level and change into my flight suit. More on that later. Upon reaching the bridge and taking a seat, something occurred to me. I was still playing. That's right, I'd yet to be disconnected due to the infamous 30K error. And because the chat was permanently affixed to my face, I was able to monitor others' gameplay as well. Typically, when the servers stop responding, you can see other players announcing in the chat that a 30K is coming. Not that it does any good to know, mind you. Once the servers stop responding, there's literally nothing you can do. Yet, here we are, still playing, servers still responding, and nobody announcing otherwise in chat. I was impressed, to say the least. So I fired up the engines, requested to depart, and the massive hangar doors began to crank open above me. After so long, I was back in the seat of a ship that I'd actually spent real-life money on. I set my throttle limits, initiated my thrust, and we lifted up, up, and out of the vertical hangar and retracted the landing gear. What a glorious departure, I thought to myself. And then my ship slammed into part of the spaceport, and we began dropping out of the sky down into the gas giant. For several minutes, I couldn't figure out what was wrong or what was going on. Then I noticed it. I hadn't disengaged the vertical takeoff and landing function that had been implemented back during the flight mechanics updates. As soon as I did that, my lateral thrust kicked in and we were soon climbing, once again, back up in the right direction. I set the throttle and our ship climbed and climbed and climbed, tens and tens of thousands of feet climbing further out of the atmosphere. It was certainly a scenic departure, I will say that, but it was a long one. Eventually, though, we were able to point towards the route I'd set and boot the quantum drive. I'd chosen one of the longest flights that I could, all the way to one of the moons of Microtech, the frigid and wintry planet whose settlers failed at terraforming. I was so pleasantly surprised to find that the system map and route planning screen was no longer a buggy mess. With our course dialed in and our quantum drive charged, I engaged it and we were off. Once we were underway in QT, I decided to do something that, for two reasons, previously would have left me a floating corpse in space. I decided to get up and walk about my ship. This is the part where the flight suit comes in. The Origin 600i has a quirky bug on the lower level in the lounge area. You see, the lounge area on the touring model is where the drop-down loading bay is on the exploration model, and the game doesn't seem to recognize the area as a pressurized part of the interior cabin. This is probably due to the touring being an altered design of the exploration variant. The second danger is a bug that would cause your ship to despawn out from under you if you left the bridge during quantum travel. I put my helmet on and went for a walk about the ship. It was a great feeling to be able to move about, hearing the massive quantum travel sounds. I did not suffocate to death, although I do believe that bug still exists, and my ship didn't disappear out from under me. This was a completely new experience for me. Eventually, I made my way back up to the bridge and sat back down. We arrived in the Microtech orbital area, and I navigated us towards one of its moons. It too was a frigid, cold place, very rocky and devoid of life, save for the various facilities and installations that were built there. I took a few moments to look around. My elevator shaft was sinking into the ground, though thankfully not colliding with it, and there were some occasional visual artifacts on the horizon, but it otherwise looked stunning. My plan was to depart the moon and head for Port Tressler, Microtech's orbital station for repairs. It would also be a good opportunity to explore the station on foot a bit. It was easy getting off the smaller moon, and before I knew it, I was requesting docking permission at Port Tressler. I slowed my approach, lined up for the hangar entrance, and initiated those pesky VTOL thrusters for more gradual maneuvering. And then, the game crashed. It wasn't a 30K or a server malfunction, just a local hard drive crash, which, to be honest, could have been caused by any number of things. I declined sending my crash data in, this time, and began to reflect on my experience. I decided that in order to properly measure this session against previous or future sessions, we needed some static criteria, items to check off as development progresses. So I came up with a few baseline key criteria to measure Star Citizen progress. As development continues, ideally we will be able to draw additional, more refined criteria as we tick each item off. Our current criteria are accessibility, reliability, key networking technology, and core gameplay. So, based on this playthrough alone, let's ask ourselves, has Star Citizen improved or shown progress based upon these categories? Is the game more accessible and reliable than it was previously? I would answer yes, but with a couple of points to make. I spent a few hours in world without a single 30K crash to the main menu. Previously, there were times I couldn't go 15 minutes without having one. And while the game application did eventually crash, I can't confidently attribute this to Star Citizen. The fact that we were able to walk around our ship during quantum travel without the ship despawning also lends itself to a yes answer. Is the core networking infrastructure there to make such a large-scale space MMO playable? I would answer this as too early to tell. It is a difficult question to answer as a non-technical outsider looking in as a player. I dare to measure this by the correlation between the number of server players and the number of 30K game crashes. For this question to be a yes, in my non-expert opinion, the game server must be able to both accommodate its full capacity and players from different servers must be able to interact, i.e. the mystical server meshing. Are there enough functioning gameplay loops for a variety of play? This can be a loaded question, and perhaps it isn't the right time to answer it, but I'm going to answer partially here. Some players believe that just piloting a starship is a game loop in itself, and there's really no right or wrong answer. But there must be enough variety to cater to the interest of players in the MMO. Combat, mining, mission play, you name it. Do enough loops exist that they're fully fleshed out? That is the question. It would be disingenuous and unfair to give a definite answer on this now, but it can and should be progress we're tracking going forward. You may be wondering why there isn't a category for bugs, glitches, or other quality-related items. Again, this wouldn't be entirely fair. Now I know its alpha status could be a topic all its own, but because the game is still technically an alpha, I've purposely omitted it from the list, for now. In future videos, as development continues, we will see this added. It's entirely too easy to become tangled in the drama surrounding Star Citizen. Everyone feels so passionately about a project that is literally and figuratively a dream. I hope we've been able to achieve some objectivity today, by which we might be able to see indicators of progress, and I hope progress continues at such a pace that the dream of the best damn space sim ever soon becomes reality. Again, my name's Jeff, and I'd like to thank you for watching today. If you thought this video was interesting, please feel free to hit the like button or leave a comment. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please hit subscribe. I hope to see you again for the next video. Good day.